Hello everyone, my name is Betty Vialta. I am an educational aide with the Open Space Authority. Today we are here at Alviso Adobe Park, and this is Alviso Adobe. We're going to be telling you a little bit about the history from when the land was claimed all the way until where it is now. So before Milpitas even existed, the land was claimed by two different individuals here. It was Nicolas Berryessa and Jose Maria de Jesus Alviso. They both claimed that this property was granted to them, and Alviso was the one that ended up receiving the land in 1835. And in 1836, Alviso was the alcalde, which means that he was a justice of the peace here. And in 1837, he built this first story of the adobe. In 1853, Senor Alviso passed away. 5 years later, his wife Juana married Jose Uridas, and he became the ranch manager. They had 4,457 acres of land, and they were able to sell off small portions of it when they needed money. And around this time, the second story was built, which you can see right here. A little bit later, his youngest daughter, Maria de Los Angeles de Alviso Sepulveda, inherited the property and the surrounding acreage. There's a romantic story regarding his youngest daughter, Maria, the one that inherited the property, that she eloped with a bandito, Bartolo Sepulveda, and the balcony does take place in that romantic story. It is said that she slid down the balcony onto his horse and left with him to elope. And in 1870, the Land Commission confirmed Alviso's claims to the land and patented their heirs. And in 1922, the land was sold to the Cuchis family, and they planted lots of fruit trees on the land. And next we have Jennifer Moore, which is one of our docents at the Open Space Authority, that will be talking a little bit more about the Cuchis family and what they did for the valley.
The Cuchis family orchard was one of 25,000 family orchards that were in the valley at the time. They grew things like cherries and apricots and almonds and all kinds of other stuff. Back then, family orchards were essential to the survival of family farms, but they quickly grew to become essential to the growing need, or the growing desire, I should say, for dried fruit in the country. The valley was the largest production and processing region in the world for fruit at the time. Immigrants from all over the world came to work these orchards and farms. The area remained rural and agricultural until after World War II, when the GI Bill made it possible for GIs coming back from the war to think of owning their own home, thus causing the suburban developments to expand. In the early 20s, the Cuchis family tore down all the buildings the Alviso, well, not all, a lot of the buildings the Alviso family had built to support the farm, to repurpose that wood to build their own water tower, which you can see here, and a garage, which you can see to the left when you're done looking at the water tower, and the cutting shed for the apricots that they grew in their orchard. During the farm season, the workers that came to work the orchard would sleep on the floor of this garage and of the water tower. In a region that notoriously gets no rainfall during the spring, summer, and fall, the Cuchis family were dependent on a 75-foot deep artesian aquifer. An artesian aquifer is one where the water is trapped below ground between layers of different kinds of rock under pressure, so that when you tap it, the water naturally rises to the surface. They added a pump to pump it up to the second story of their water tower so that they can then water their orchard using gravity-fed water. In 1927, electricity came about. After that, they would have been able to pump the water out to the orchard.
During that time, raising cattle was the primary source of revenue for many of the farms or ranches around the area. It was not until 1922, when the Cuchis family took over the land, that it became an orchard. And that's because selling dried fruit worldwide made a lot more money for them.
So apricots originated in Armenia, and as long ago as 5,000 years, Indian farmers were cultivating them. They were brought to the U.S. by Spanish missionaries in 1700. One thing people don't know about apricots is that from the time you plant the tree to the time it produces its first fruit is between 3 and 5 years. So it's really quite a bit of speculation to put a lot of money into planting a large orchard the way the Cuchis family did, because then it's going to be another 3 to 5 years before they can make any money off of it. So apricots ripen from the inside out. When they were good and ripe, the workers would pick them, carry them in buckets into the cutting shed, which is here, and slice them and remove the pits. Then they were laid flat on thin trays, a single layer, and those trays were stacked up onto a cart that was then rolled out on tracks that had been laid down for the purpose into what's called the... So after the carts were loaded up with the fruit was rolled out on tracks that are still here to be seen over to a concrete bunker called the sulfur bunker, which would be located there if it still existed. Once the carts full of apricot were in the bunker was sealed off, and a small amount of sulfur dioxide was set on fire inside the bunker. That was allowed to burn overnight, and that cured the apricots. It put a layer of sulfur on them so that when they were removed the next day and laid out in the sun to dry for 3 days, the sulfur would prevent the fruit from spoiling or discoloring. After that, it was packed up and shipped off, apricot gold.
And in 1980, the rest of the property was sold to the Calvary Assembly of God Church, which was then sold to the city of Milpitas in 1996. In 2011, the city started a restoration on the adobe, thanks to the contribution from the Open Space Authority, which has helped with those restorations as one of our urban park projects.